just tell everybody how much weight you've lost in the past 12 weeks here.
Put, I think, like 204, but really I was closer like 208. Like I weighed this morning, even I was 192 and a half. How you do things is based on your identities, something that they want to change. Honest with yourself, mindset isn't right. The results are only going to be temporary, no matter what it is.
Best way to get into this is just tell everybody how much weight you've lost in the past 12 weeks here.
Okay, so like when I originally registered, I had put, I think, like 204, but really I was closer like 208.
Yeah.
Uh, and like I weighed this morning, even I was 192 and a half. So, um, at least 13. And I was talking to Chris about this too, because, um, like my physical appearance is definitely different. Like I have way more stacked like up here. So I think the amount of fat that I lost is
Mhm.
probably, somewhere between 15 and 20, and then gain maybe 3, 4 pounds of muscle. My belt went from like the second notch to the fifth, which there aren't anymore. So like if I keep getting smaller, I'm gonna have to buy a different belt. But
Yeah.
all the way to the fifth notch, and like I have to actually wear it with my shorts now, like otherwise I have to like pull my shorts up every like 3 or 4 steps, and like this isn't the 90s anymore, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
not cool, like so yeah, it's definitely been a really awesome transformation. And the thing of it is, like I'm 43. You know what I mean? Like I'm supposed to be like on the downslope, and also of the 12 weeks I was on the program, 7 of them were on the road. Like I'm in a hotel right now. Like this isn't my house.
Yeah.
You know, it might seem like it, but
Yeah.
it's not. So yeah, 7 of those 12 weeks I was on the road. So yeah, and still made like really good progress. Like I was very happy with it. So
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love to hear it. I know, especially like when a guy has a complex situation like you, where, hey, I'm gonna be on the go. Sometimes it's gonna be a hotel gym, or sometimes it's gonna be no gym, or sometimes we're gonna have this food or that food, or kind of be stuck to our own devices. I
mhm.
guess I'm curious, and maybe you can explain to people, how did we help you navigate being on the go, whether that be workouts or nutrition? How did we help you actually like navigate that?
A few things. So with the workouts, like Chris was able to kind of, adjust my current program here and there. Like they have some dumbbells and stuff. So we did more of like dumbbell based workouts before. When I was at home, I have full gym. And then like when I was in Peoria and stuff, they had nothing. So I was just doing calisthenics. So that helped. And a lot of it's just, mindset. And that's really why I went to DK over everybody else, is because that was where your focus was. Everybody always promises this and that, but um, with like anything, whether you're talking about like losing weight or, submitting to Christ or pursuing a relationship, like all these things, like if your mindset isn't right, the results are only going to be temporary, no matter what it is. This is true of all pursuits, academics too. I see it a lot because I'm an instructor in the Army. So, um, you know, if your mindset is correct, the results are going to come. And so that was really the biggest thing. And so to give an example, right? I'll give you two. So one came from you, and it's in, I think in the default action installation system, but it was a tweet that you had made too, and we talked about it. How, your decisions, your actions are driven by your identities. So a lot of people look and say, well, I need to adjust my decisions. And that's true. If you want to change your life, you have to change the form of your decision making, but it's deeper than that. It's are the identities that are driving those decisions in the first place. And we talked about the cliche of, well, how you do one thing is how you do everything. It's like that's not really true. How you do things is based on your identities, and those identities that you created for yourself are what drive your decisions, and then so that's going to drive your default actions. So um doing that on that deeper level definitely made a huge difference, because now that's where I look at it. If I say, oh well, why did I do this? Why did I make this decision? What identity is driving this? That's kind of where I wasn't before. Like I always knew it's all about your mindset and driving decision making, but going that extra level down with the identities, that makes a big difference. And so, and you hear it all the time. I have students, right? And so my students are linguists. So a lot of them are nerds, and a lot of them aren't. Some of them come from like 82nd Airborne or different special forces groups. So some of them are not. Some of them are very much, athletic, and they're just beasts, man. And some of them are not. They're nerds, and they will tell you as much. Like you say, well, how come you don't go out for airborne, or why don't you, try harder on the fitness test, whatever, and they will tell you like, dude, I'm not an athlete, man. Like I'm
Mhm.
not. So they've created that identity for themselves. But then the opposite is true too. They get, a 4.4 on the DLPT, which is an incredible score. I mean, this is like above a native speaker level.
Yeah.
And they say, yeah, because I'm an awesome linguist. You know what I mean? Like they create these identities for themselves, and it drives how they train, how they do things. Like in language training, they try really hard. And with fitness stuff, they don't. They don't care. So, and I've seen vice versa too. Guys that are, all into that hua stuff, and they'll tell you like, I'm the worst French linguist in the army or whatever, and because that's just the identity. So that drives a lot of things. And then the other thing was, when I talked to Gabe about halfway through, and we were talking about, you know, having a beer or ice cream. That's why he told me about that ice cream shop that you guys love so much out in Florida, where.
Oh yeah. Good old
Um,
Kelly's. Shout out Kelly's. Everybody knows. If you come to
so
Orlando and see me and Gabe, you'll hear about Kelly's ice cream.
yeah, I've heard about it, so
Yeah.
now I'm curious. But my thing is beer, right? Huge surprise, German guy, soldier. So, but
The German guy that's also a soldier likes.
yeah. So we talked about, we still do these things, but it's a calculated decision. It's not like an impulse. It's not like, oh well, oopsies, it's this is a calculated decision. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and here's how I'm gonna make up for it, whether it's, over the course of a day, 2 days, whatever. And so I started doing this because my family, they come visit me because it's about 3 hours from Huachuca, and there's just way more to do here in Phoenix. So they come up here, and on those weekends, like I'll go out and eat at a Mexican restaurant with my wife, or, I'll go out and have a beer or two. But there's a difference between a beer or two and six, you know what I mean? Especially from like a calorie perspective. Um, so it's a calculated decision. And I say, okay, well, let's say it's a pint is, 180 calories, or some of them are 300. So, okay, I need to take those calories out over the next day or 2 days or whatever. And then you and I talked about that, like, skip a meal, or, swap with a protein shake or something. And then using a lot of steps to hedge against it, are both ways to balance that out. And I've been over 10,000 steps every single day that I've been up here. Like it's easy. The weather's beautiful all the time. And Scottsdale's got a lot of really cool stuff. So, it's easy to do, but it's, again, going back to that identity, like, okay, I'm not that person anymore. And so this is what I do now. This is how I live. And it's gotten to the point now, I've noticed this too. When I first started, it was a conscious effort, but now like it just happens. It's like you guys say, like default actions. This is my like my MO now. It's just how I do things. So.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And I'd actually be curious to have you maybe overview what were some of the negative identities or negative default actions that you had before going through this that were holding you back from getting to where you wanted to actually be weight wise.
Um, I think some of it is like making excuses for yourself, saying like, oh well, I'm just this way now, or but at the same time, there was still something within me that always fought it, especially if I heard it from somebody else. Like I think it's easier to lie to yourself than to hear the same lie from another person. Or maybe that's just me. Maybe some people are different, but like, when I would go to the doctor or something, they say, well, you're getting older now. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? I would tell them like Tom Brady plays in the NFL and he's older than me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to hear this. Like, especially before if I was like, I'm pushing 40, not 60. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, I think too, like, um, just the culture stuff, like, oh, well, we'll go out and have a few beers, where, like I said, there's a difference between having two and having six. Um, in Sierra Vista, a lot of places I live, like there's a lot of breweries around because that's what soldiers buy. So there's always going to be those types of things around military installations. And then there's the lie too that we tell ourselves, like, I work out so I can eat whatever I want. Like that might be true when you're 25. When
Yeah.
you're reality. It's not true anymore. You know what I mean?
It changes
Um,
a bit.
yeah. So just having to um just make better decisions, I think is the biggest thing. Like, and I was close, and we talked about that when I first started. When I talked to Gabe, it's like my mindset was really, really close, but there's a difference between being close and being precise. When I first started counting calories, honestly, I was shocked at how many I was actually consuming because I was like, oh, you think of it like, oh, I don't eat that much, or I don't do this or that. But if you actually calculate like what you do, I think a lot of it gets lost, as you're just going throughout the day, especially like us, we're very busy all the time. So it's very easy to just eat stuff and then forget, or, you know, drink stuff and then forget. And then but if you actually calculate, look at the end of the day, it's like, oh man, you know what I mean? Like this is a lot. Um, and especially like if you're not eating a lot of high protein foods and stuff, you don't really feel all that full. So you're like, well, I'm not really eating that much. It's like, yes, you are. Like I used to for breakfast, I love those sleeves of like the peanut butter crackers, like the Keebler ones. I would have two of those and a Monster, the regular one, not the sugar free. I don't consume either any of those things anymore. But that's like almost 800 calories for
Yeah.
those when I started looking at it. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
that's more calories than the protein bowls that I eat now from Chipotle. I get the rice, chicken, steak, and shredded cheese is 650 calories and like 65 or 70 grams of protein. I mean, like that's the swap. So yeah, when I first started, I definitely was like, oh wow, this was really shocking to see like how many calories I was actually consuming. Um, and then community strong too. You know what I mean? Like when you're surrounded by other people who are of the similar mindset. I think it's easier to when you're talking about changing identity if you're doing it with a group of other people who are doing the same thing. Because I felt like, at least for me, it's hard sometimes to like introduce yourself to somebody else as a different person,
Mhm.
especially if they've known you for years. They're gonna be like, "What are you talking about, man?" Or like, they don't get it. They don't understand. But when you have a whole community of people who are doing the exact same thing, who are on the same page as you, I think it's easier to stay, on that path. So,
Yeah. No, that's all good stuff, man. I think you might have heard me typing. I was writing down, I was like, close and precise are very different things. I was like,
oh yeah,
that's a whole piece of content right there. And I think obviously that's something that we're super specific on is actually being precise, not close. There's a lot of guys that are really close, and then they come in here and they actually learn what precise is and they reap the rewards of it. And I mean, it sounds like as you rehash your situation here, like it sounds like the biggest thing that was probably missing and everything you did before was, hey, not actually having the mindset component, and then also really not learning how to be precise until you got here. And I'm actually kind of curious, just like specifically what it was maybe that you tried before that you didn't really see too much success with. Was it like diets, or was it like other coaching programs? Like, what did you actually tried beforehand?
I hadn't done any coaching programs. Diet stuff, yeah, there's always like the different fad diets and stuff. I never really got in. I looked into them. I never really tried to, many of them just because it's like it was too much upfront, like change and stuff like, keto and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, how do you actually do that? And it's just too much prep and all that. Like, no, I'm not doing that. But I think yeah, consistency is a big thing. If I would pick some, it's not so much like the diet or the style so much as just being consistent and
Yeah.
going and changing that identity is what makes really the difference. I'm in the military, so we do PT a lot, but it's not as productive. And where I am now, like we don't do it as much. So, because I work for the NCO Academy, so it's kind of like it's on your own, which I do it, but it's like I'm training for specific events, not like
Right.
trying to build muscle. Like we're different, what I mean? Like, um, we're more endurance style athletes. So, yeah, changing that up to being more like lifting weights and stuff versus like running a lot or, kickboxing and stuff like that. Like I put more emphasis on weightlifting because that's the program that they gave me. And I noticed too, like as I built more muscle, like it was easier to um, like curb the calories, if that makes sense. Like I know muscle is very calorie dense, but uh, it keeps it, you know, going to the right places, if that makes sense. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for people that are maybe like sitting in your shoes or the shoes that you were in before going through DK, if you were to tell them like, hey, this was the ultimate overall impact of working with DK, like what would you say that is for you?
the identity change and the lifestyle. And it was a short bridge for me to cross because, which is why I went to DK in the first place. I was like, these guys think like me. But they're getting the results that I'm not. So, that was the intrigue. But yeah, it's definitely the identity and just like the way you make decisions. So when you have that identity that, I am this fit person, I am this leader that people look up to, I am all of these things, and when you're telling yourself that all the time, it really does change the way that you make decisions. It changes, and I found myself doing it multiple times. Like, hey, I want to have that beer, or I want to have that dessert, or I want this or that. I was like, I really don't want to be putting the calories in the app. You know what I mean? Like, and I certainly wasn't gonna lie. Like, why would I do that? Like, it's for me. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, it really changed the way I made decisions, especially because, I didn't have to give up anything that I really enjoy. I'll go have a beer. I'll go eat at a Mexican restaurant. I'll have those, nachos with the jalapenos or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just a calculated decision. And I know like, okay, I'm going to consume this many calories. This is how I'm going to make up for it. And it works, like it really does. And I told the guys in the Slack channel, like, trust the process. Because like the first few weeks, I didn't really see much change. It was like, I was going down to like, 201, 202, 201, 202, and then, you know, 200, 201. I was like, man, I'm like, almost halfway into the program and not much change. But like, for whatever reason, that from like, I think it was like between weeks 5 and 6, like it really started to change. And like, that's when everything kicked in. It's like all that money I'd been putting in the bank for those 4 weeks, it's like I could cash that check all of a sudden. So that was really, really cool. And just seeing the results, rapidly, like that was pretty awesome. And then just seeing the change in myself, like, hey, this is how I do things now. And then, once you make that progress, and it's like you don't want to lose it because, it's like I worked hard for that. You know what I mean? So I'm more likely to make those decisions. They're going to keep me where I'm at because I like it much better than where I was before. I don't walk around feeling like heavy and dense and fat and stuff anymore. And would feel that way. And you tell yourself these things. And so it kind of creates that identity, like we talked about. They're like, well, this is just who I am. So, bring on the chips. You know what I mean? So it's a little different. It's definitely different.
Yeah, man, definitely different. And it's cool to see how that's evolved for you over time. And I love having you be active in the group too, because you're a guy that sees things through a similar lens as us, which is probably also why you mesh so well right out of the gate. I remember your kickoff call. I was like, I like this guy a lot. Like this guy, we're gonna get along with this guy. So it's awesome to see you kind of step into essentially like a leadership position almost in the group as you're getting to the end here and you're about to be an alumni. And I'm curious, like if there's somebody that's watching this maybe right now that's not in DK or is on the fence about joining DK, in your mind, like why should somebody that's in that position, take action and actually make a change for themselves?
As far as why they should do it for themselves, I mean, if they're watching the video, if they're thinking about joining DK, at least at some level, maybe subconsciously or consciously, they know like there's something that they want to change. And so I would say, be honest with yourself, which is difficult to do sometimes. Um, especially like for men, it's sometimes difficult to admit that we need help or that we're failures. Like, you know what I mean? That what
Mhm.
we're doing isn't working. Um, but just be honest with yourself. Like, what is it that you want, and what is it that you're not getting? And do you even have a plan to get it?
Mm.
And at that point, have you felt this way before? Have you thought, hey, I have a plan to get this, and then it didn't work, even though you were sure it would? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, and it's, it can be difficult, but if I can do it, anybody can do it. Like, I had every reason to be difficult. You know what I mean? Like, I'm probably older than most people who would join your program. Like, again, I'm 43, right? And we're not supposed to be, changing our lifestyles and doing all this stuff at my age, right? Um, I'm a soldier. Like, you would think this would be easy for me, but it wasn't. Largely because of the identities and things that, even though I always thought of myself this way, that I'm this soldier, I'm this NCO, it was, that was only half of it. I wasn't saying like, well, but I'm a fit leader.
Mhm.
I'm, somebody that people can look up to in all things. Um, and this is the value that I bring to the table. Um, so, you know, and again, I was on the road for 7 of the 12 weeks that I was on the program. You know what I mean? So I wasn't able to prep meals and eat home. Like living in a hotel, eating at restaurants and, I mean, I get what I can. I love those like Fairlife shakes and stuff, or get a rotisserie chicken from the store, whatever. When they have them, I have to get there early because they sell out really early for some reason. Uh, so I had a lot of reasons to fail, but I just stuck with it, trusted the process. You guys you're professionals like for a reason. And so I had done these other things. I had done these workout programs. I did Strength Cartel. I did Frank Madrano's, and those work great, like especially for building muscle and stuff like that. But it's kind of incomplete if you're looking at like a lifestyle change or an identity change. Those are just pure workout plans, or nutrition plans, and they're very specific. Like eat this specific thing versus you guys is more like, well, eat what eat what you eat, but quantity for and hit your numbers, hit your calorie numbers, hit your protein numbers. That's a lot easier. And so I think it makes it an easier change. I think it's easier to embrace, and then having a community full of like-minded people who are doing the exact same thing and who really cheer each other on, which is definitely nice, especially in today's society. I think a lot of places you go, even in fitness communities, people want to like tear each other down or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense to me, but DK is definitely not like that. Everyone's really supportive of each other. The calls are great, and it's just constant reinforcement. You know what I mean? So, and then you get to the point where, like like I said, this is just how you do things now. Like you don't have to think about it, you don't have to force it. It's just how you do things. So, um, definitely trust the process, and go through the whole program. Don't be, and that's another thing that I felt like caused me to fail a lot of places. I do something for
Mhm.
2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it's like, okay, I'm done. And it's not even that I give up. It's just like I have severe, like borderline crippling ADHD. So it's really hard for me to like stick with something. And so that's where like having that community really helps. Because
Yeah.
like I reach the end of the road very quickly, but I can always get on a call or get in the Slack channel or whatever and talk to people who are like, okay, well, you know, take the next step, you know what I mean? Like stay on the path,
Yeah. Stay
and
on
then
it.
eventually you become that person. So yeah, that's what I would tell them.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Well, Jeremy, it's been awesome having you on here, dude. And obviously, just having you and DK has been a blessing, brother. I mean, you're somebody that's like a dream client. Like you follow instructions, you listen to what we tell you to do, you step into leadership positions. So, I mean, it's been awesome working with you, brother. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know it's going to inspire somebody that's watching this, that's on the fence about making a change in their life. So, I appreciate you doing this, man.
Hope so. Yeah, I appreciate you, man.